Top of the Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome to this baby we call The Sweat, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, every Saturday and Sunday morning here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. I am Emerson Lancia, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow. Good to have the band back together, huh? Feels good, doesn't it?
Things flowed pretty naturally last Sunday with one missing member of the band.
We actually had our highest rated show last week.
Oh, you're welcome.
Right, you weren't here.
Exactly. You are welcome. I do not apologize for anything, people. How about what's coming up in this show? You want to talk about ratings? We're going to have some high ones for the next 2 hours here, people. Run for the roses. We got a full Derby preview coming up. Fastest 2 minutes in sports. Plus, you'll want to stick around for the final block of the show because we're going to have the fastest 30 seconds in sports with the Sweat Derby. Oh, yeah. There are donuts on the line. Canelo Munguia, little morning combat preview. Nice little boxing bout going down. Why you need DK Network on your television starting at 5 o'clock tonight. And then a little fantasy on ice. Anna and Pete of NHL.com. We're talking some Stanley Cup postseason, the playoffs, who they're taking in tonight's Game 7. First one of the NHL postseason between the Bruins and the Leafs. What do you guys think?
I have a very important question.
What?
So we said that there's donuts on the line for the race at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Did we decide from where? Because I don't want dunks.
What do you mean? Dunks is
Dunkin'
great.
Donuts, Dunks is so
Donut
overrated.
King is
Drew
what-
is saying Donut King. That's like
Drew's the one who's
specialty
going to be bringing them in.
Wayman.
Yeah, because
Tomorrow.
Dunks is
Listen,
so...
we're not crapping on Dunks because Dunks
No, we
is
are.
a
That's gonna
sponsor of
be a
this
sponsor.
show.
we are.
Okay, never mind.
Let's
Dunks
go.
is not
We
gonna
can
be
go
sponsoring
specialty
the show.
donuts. Like, you know, it's got to be from like a local shop.
Blackbird.
Which Dunk still is. But
Yeah, you said you're betting the Leafs tonight, huh? For Game 7.
I'm betting the under. It's 5.5, under 5.5. I don't give out much hockey. Here you go, hockey under 5.5. Think they're going to tighten up. It's going to be
It's
one.
been tight the
it's
last
gonna be,
2 games.
Yeah, and it's going to be even tighter tonight. So
Is Austin Matthews active or no?
No, I don't
Who
think.
cares?
I don't think he's going to play.
Oh, that's a big
if you want to go ahead and bet an exacta, there's a word for you on Derby Day. 1-0 Leafs. That's how the game's going to go.
Whoa! Do you have a lean, by the way, for horses for the Derby? Do you?
By the end of the show, I will.
Oh,
Wow.
Interesting. Hey, forever young, people. All right. Trust me, if you've seen the movie of Mel Gibson, 1992, it's a good one.
Anytime you're using a 1992 movie to handicap your Kentucky Derby, you're doing
All right,
something
baby.
right.
2024. Let's work up a sweat on this 4th day of May. Yes, May the 4th be with you, Steve Buchanan. I know you're a big Star Wars guy.
yeah.
Okay, so break out that lightsaber.
I saw him
for me,
playing with
Julian.
his lightsaber before the show.
All right, what's a bet you're thinking of? You got a storyline, anything here? Work up a sweat. Let's go, Jules. You're up first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go,
you
man.
Pitched it right towards Steve. All right, so we're gonna go.
Larry Lightsaber over here.
We're gonna go to the NBA, where I'll go with the Porzingis situation because that seems to be a big talking point. People should not be getting their hopes up here, is what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, because you have Derek White, dude.
That helps, but he's gonna miss a week. We're gonna look at him in a week, and then we'll evaluate this week by week. Okay, but let's look at the injury he has. That lower calf injury is pretty much identical to what happened with Giannis. He went down non-contact, and it was the same injury. So, what happened with Giannis? 3 weeks to the day, Giannis couldn't play in a do-or-die Game 5 for Milwaukee. Then it gets to day 23. Dame returns. Giannis can't go 23 days after suffering that injury. After the game or the next day, when talking to reporters, he said, I wanted to try and get out there and do something, but we decided that wasn't the best decision. I can run at 30, 40%. I still can't run now without pain. This is a month-plus injury, no doubt. So the Celtics, what we do know is that Game 1 of the NBA Finals is a set date. That's June 6th. There's generally a pretty big gap between when these conference finals end and the NBA Finals starts. If Porzingis were to return for a Game 5, Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, by playing then, he could be sacrificing another 10 days of rest or something on the back end that he would get there if the Celtics were to go to the finals without him. Long story short, I would not plan on seeing Kristaps Porzingis until the NBA Finals.
Damn.
If you are expecting or hoping the Celtics to get there.
Okay, so
and I would just say that should not affect the Celtics' odds or chances of winning the East one bit. They should win the East without him. Do they need Porzingis against Denver, Minnesota, Dallas, whoever you want to make it, yeah, they do. But to get there, they should still get there with the same amount of ease, really, even going up against a bigger Orlando or Cleveland team in the second round. They should still get there, no problem. They will need Porzingis to win it all.
Who are they going to be playing in the East Finals?
It's a good question. Teasing our NBA segment there. Who are they going to be playing in the East Finals?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not talking Cleveland-Orlando series.
No.
They're going to be playing the Knicks, and it's going to be awesome. And tickets at MSG are going to be like $1,000.
That's like 5 chicken fingers.
Yeah, you did give me 1 chicken finger to go to the Celtics game last week.
I do appreciate that. By the way,
Yep.
you can get Celtics Knicks to meet in the Eastern Conference Finals, minus 180 on the DK.
Minus
Sports.
180. That opened plus 310.
Okay.
I gave it out.
All right, good stuff. Almost like you kind of know what you're doing.
I gave it out parlayed with a Denver-Dallas Western Conference final. It was 22-1.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we've got an NBA segment coming up with Julian. We'll talk Game 7 between the Cavs and the Magic, and also big one tonight between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. So, Mr. Bukes, please, your warm-up bet right now, or just what you're warming up to.
Hockey?
Big trade last night. First team to wave the white flag for the 2024 MLB season.
Well, they kind of
May
did
3rd.
like
It's
already.
true though.
May 3rd.
It's true. The Marlins are like, we're done. Like we're done with the season already. Luis Ariz traded from the Marlins, going to the Padres, came down late last night, and I hate this move. I absolutely hate this move. I really do. It's strange. The package of prospects going to the Marlins is such a massive overpay.
Yeah.
For Luis Ariz, who, quite frankly, is kind of a one-dimensional hitter, in my opinion. Like, this is obviously somebody we talked about last year. He was, like, on the cusp of hitting 400.
Yeah.
So
he hasn't really returned to that form, right?
well,
this
I mean,
year?
to be fair, nobody's going to return to that type of form.
Yeah.
Like, that was so beyond ridiculous. But he's like a singles slap hitter type guy. Like, doesn't have power at all. Has 0 home runs on the year right now, has only knocked in 5 runs, and to be fair, you're playing on the Marlins. You're not going to have a lot of RBI opportunities hitting at the top of that lineup, but I just feel like this was such an overpay, and one of the big moves, or one of the big guys in this trade package here, was Dylan Head, and that was the Padres' first-round pick last year. Like, this is going to be, if he stays on the course, like a legit major league player. And the Marlins just like made out like bandits in this deal for basically a year and a half of control of Luis Ariz, because he's going to be a free agent after 2026. So it's not like the Padres' need right now is offense. Like, they are second in the league in runs scored, trailing only their division rivals there in the Dodgers. Like, this was not a need. Like, this team has so many infielders that it came to the point where they had to move Fernando Tatis Jr. to be their primary right fielder, because they got Xander Bogaerts at second, they got Jake Cronenworth at first, they got Ha-Sung Kim, who wasn't even on the starting roster last year. He's just starting shortstop. Manny Machado at third base, who, by the way, was the shortstop, who, by the way, was also the shortstop when Fernando Tatis was there, too, as well. Like, they just have this massive cluster of infielders, and they don't know where to put these guys. So where do you put Ariz at this point? You maybe put him at first, or like a rotation. Like, there's too many guys.
A lot of people were bringing up the Xander Bogaerts contract.
Oh, I mean, that was
like, he was playing second, and
Yeah.
Arias goes. Then it's like, man, that contract looks worse and worse by the day.
I mean, that is going to be one of the worst contracts in history. I think
he's
down.
playing like dog crap this year.
Yes, he's playing horribly. Because again, it's like you had to overpay him to get the player. But it's, what's going to be the return on investment from that type of contract? It's going to be horrible, because like he's signed for 11 years, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was 10 or 11.
And we're talking about this now in what, year 2? We're already saying that this is a bad contract? Like, good Lord, we got a long time to go for Xander Bogaerts. But nonetheless, don't like the deal. I thought the Padres way overpaid for a guy that they don't even really necessarily need. I mean, they're obviously not worried about his hitting right now because they paid so much to get him, but like, I really hated that deal. I thought the Marlins made out like bandits here, but 13 and a half games back on May 4th, negative 61 run differential. They're 9-25. They're going nowhere. You're going to see more guys getting traded out as the year progresses, but I thought, what a bad deal for the Padres.
I mean, is anyone remotely surprised that AJ Preller is the GM willing to take a big swing
Yeah.
on a win-now trade months before the deadline? The answer to that is no. Okay, so quickly, my warm-up. I am requesting an apology, Steve, from you for your apology. This is something that happened on the show last week, Sunday show that I was not on. So you gave out a bet, I believe, having to do with Patrick Corbin and the Nationals. You went a first 5 here.
Yes.
Against the Marlins, speaking of right now.
So not only did I back Patrick Corbin, somebody I said I would never do again, but it was 6-0 in the first inning, 7-0 in the second inning, and somehow the Nationals still won that bet on the first 5, and they still won that game overall because they ended up scoring 12 runs from the 4th inning on.
Look at an official statement, an official apology from you, but it was unnecessary.
I was so embarrassed because I was watching that game and 6-0 in the first. It's like I think I probably lost this bet as a money line play, and you only have 5 innings to fix this. So I was so embarrassed. I wanted to apologize to the people, but this was obviously not necessary. It was premature.
Unnecessary.
It was premature. If anything, I should apologize.
That's you.
I should apologize for doubting. And then I made this too. I mean, look how beautiful
this is good.
I mean,
this is good.
That's a great.
I'm impressed of your meme-making abilities.
What a win.
All right. Well, I accept your apology.
Thanks.
To your apology. We need to take a 3-minute break. After said break here, folks, we're gearing up for our first Game 7 of the NBA postseason, plus other playoff bets that Jules has his eyes on, including Minnesota and Denver tonight. All right, let's pour one out for the ham man here, Julian Edlow. Darvin Ham's
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call this guy the ham man.
Well, people aren't as clever as yours truly. So his time as head coach of the Lakers officially coming to an end yesterday when he was fired. after just 2 seasons on the job. I think he was made the fall guy here. Charles Barkley said something similar. He said he's tired of everyone making the Hamman the fall guy for the Lakers' first-round loss to the Nuggets here. He says it's the roster that the front office put together here. Which side of this debate are you on?
It can be both. The Lakers made some roster mismanagements. A couple years ago, guys like Josh Hart on this roster, some better glue guys maybe than they have. They also ran into, they went to the Western Conference Final last year, and then they happened to run into Denver in the first round this year. That's, I don't want to say bad luck, but not the draw you want to necessarily get. The Lakers could have potentially gone on another run if they wind up landing in a different matchup. So it's a little bit of Ham, a little bit of the roster. But I would say that his firing is justified because I think you can do better as head coach. I think there are guys that are better than Darvin Ham.
Who? Who would you look at next?
And I think that the players, it also matters how the players feel, and the players didn't necessarily take
it matters
him seriously.
how LeBron feels, not necessarily
LeBron and the players.
Yeah. Who's on your list of candidates?
JJ Redick has to be the guy. There's one guy on the list. It's JJ Redick. He
He does a podcast with LeBron, right?
Literally does a podcast with LeBron. That's his actual job interview. He's just sitting there with LeBron. They're drawing up plays. You see the clips on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. Weren't you almost on JJ Redick's podcast? Almost?
Yes, JJ Redick is essentially in 1 year going to go from potentially doing a podcast with me to the head coach of the Lakers. That's quite a escalation from rock bottom to top of the world. Meanwhile, I'm still just here doing my thing.
Yeah. Question is LeBron going to be on that team next year?
Yeah, LeBron's going to be in.
And Bronny's going to be on the team?
No. I feel bad for Bronny because it's just kind of unfair to him to try and pretend like he's an NBA player right now. And then if he does stay in the draft, he's going to get overdrafted because of his dad, where he could go back and play some good college basketball for a couple years. But yeah, LeBron stays in LA. JJ Redick's the head coach.
All right. The NBA postseason continued yesterday. Obviously, the Lakers not part of that. Only one first-round series now, folks, is left standing. We got the Magic starting things off. It was a tense 103-96 Game 6 victory over the Cavs, forcing a 7th and decisive game on Sunday. That's going to be in Cleveland. You see the Clippers dropping their Game 6 against the Mavericks, so the Mavericks are moving on. The Magic, though, Jules, how were the Magic able to withstand a 50-point outing from Donovan Mitchell here?
They were able to withstand it because nobody else did anything.
Yeah.
If a guy's going to drop 50 on the road in a playoff game, they didn't even get to 100. And Mitchell had 50, right?
Sparkling 22 for 36 from the field performance by Mitchell.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And that's why I'm afraid of the Cavs in a Game 7 at home. Can he do anything close to replicating that? 35 will be enough because other guys will step up and play better at home. I don't know if I'm going to bet this game. I want to see if Jared Allen's going to play one way or another. Because if Jared Allen's going to play and I want to back Cleveland, I want to bet him quickly. If Jared Allen, if you like Orlando and Jared Allen plays, you're going to get potentially a better number by, even just a half point on the Magic. It's a tough game. I think it's going to be a tight game. The last 2 games have been fantastic after a series of blowouts.
And the home team has won in every game in this
So
series.
can Orlando buck that trend? They almost did in Game 5 before that Evan Mobley block.
Yeah.
It would be Magic or pass taking the points in a game like this for me. But it's going to be tight. I would look at maybe the first half under. Total for the game is 195.5. I don't want to deal with an overtime situation or anything, but first half under would probably be my strongest bet if I do get involved in that game.
Were you impressed with Dallas at all in that victory, considering there's no Kawhi for the Clippers? The Clippers seem like they're in absolute shambles right now. You do have to give it up for Kyrie Irving, though. He owns a career record now, Jules, 13-0 in closeout games.
Yeah.
What do you have? 2 points in the first half and then scored 28 of his 30 points in the second half as Dallas busted a 52-52 tie at half?
Yeah, Kyrie's got a unique reputation depending on what neck of the woods you are in. He has probably his worst reputation here in Boston.
I was just going to say, like, Kyrie, he hasn't talked a whole lot, like, through the media this year. He's simply, like, just been going out and balling his ass off, like, on the court, and he tends to be a lot more likable in those situations.
So I love what I'm seeing from Kyrie Irving. We're not hearing anything off the court, none of the shenanigans. He's taking care of business. And he's in a good spot for him. Credit to him for knowing when to step up. He's playing second fiddle to Luka, and he's doing a great job playing off the ball. But when he needs to step up, he can. He has a great feel for the game. He's playing out of his mind right now. He's playing well on the defensive side of the ball. He's got the trust of his coach, his teammates. He's got an owner in Mark Cuban that has his back. Everything seems to be working right for Kyrie Irving right now, and we're seeing the type of player we know he can be, but without all of the extra. And, Dallas is reaping the benefits. I think this is a team that can make a run in the West, that is capable of going to the NBA Finals. The way that they're playing right now with the chemistry, the guys they added at the deadline. OKC is going to be a tough series, but they beat an inexperienced, less talented Pelicans team without Zion in the first round. Now they're going to play some guys that have been there. This is going to be much tougher for OKC. Dallas didn't play very well in Game 1 against the Clippers. I might wait and see how this looks early, and if I like what I see from the Mavs, but they can't squeak out Game 1, maybe look to get involved at some plus money on the series.
All right, we got one game on the slate today, and I think it's going to be the best series of the second round. So you've got Denver here, class of the West, defending NBA champion. Sure, Minnesota lacks some of that experience there, but the only team really left in the postseason, Jules, when you look at it, that can match Denver's size along the front line there. So promises to be a physical series. Do you have any leans in terms of tonight's Game 1 or maybe just the series in general?
Yeah, a lot of size in this series. Two big teams, two teams that know each other well within the division. Minnesota's a popular pick with the plus price tag there. Trendy pick. I know why. They just swept the Suns. What if it's just that the Suns are a mess, though?
They are.
They are.
And they're going to be for the foreseeable future.
Correct. So how much of that was Minnesota and how much of it was Phoenix? I don't want to take away from Minnesota because we don't necessarily know the answer to that question. So I think that's why this is a tricky series. And in general, I'm going to wait to see before getting too invested. I did take the Wolves plus a game and a half. So if they win the series or it just goes to a Game 7, you win that bet. That was minus 110 when I played it, though. It's now minus 135. It's taken a good amount of money. I don't think I'll even give it out at minus 135. I played the Wolves small plus 5 in Game 1. Now you're looking at plus 4.5 at minus 115. I don't know if I would do that anymore. But, like, at the same time, you can talk me into the other side of this. Denver, double result, halftime, full-time, is minus 110. Denver to win Game 1 and win the series, which obviously has a ton of correlation, I think that was minus 110, which is a pretty nice price. So really, it depends what team you like, but if you like Minnesota, I think you want that cushion of a game and a half. Give yourself some type of leeway there. If you want Denver, probably just look at the Game 1 series double result, because if the Wolves win this game, everybody's going to be talking about how this is going to be their series.
Okay, yeah. During the regular season, teams split this series, by the way, 2-2. So when we look ahead to Monday as we go to the East here, you've got the Pacers clashing with the Knicks. What is the move right now in your eyes here, either betting Game 1 or the series?
The New York Knicks. We're on track for that Boston-New York Eastern Conference final that a lot of us really want, and I think we're in good shape to get it.
Why do you want that so bad? History, rivalry?
I think it would be a good series, good matchup. Boston-New York is fun. I'm biased.
Pretty close train ride for you, too.
Yeah, except I just can't pay $1,000 for tickets right now. But, we work at DraftKings, a press pass.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
And you're not that big of a peasant.
Anyway, I'll be at all the games here in Boston. Focusing on the series here, I'm not bringing you to any more games at the cost of a chicken finger. Eastern Conference Finals is like at least 3 chicken fingers. This guy wants me to bring him to Celtics playoff games and he pays me in chicken fingers.
You abused me. All right, quickly, come on. We got like
I know,
30
we got 1
seconds to
minute.
go.
I love the Knicks in this series. Good for the Pacers in beating the Bucks. Bucks super dinged up. Knicks are big favorites in the series, big favorites in game 1. So there's 2 ways I'm backing the Knicks. Lay the game and a half. They'll get this done in 6 or less like they did against Milwaukee. Knicks minus 1.5 games is minus 125. And then the double results that I've been giving out all postseason. Knicks to win game 1 and win the series, minus 140. Those prices are both the best in the industry at DraftKings.
All right, Jules.
Your price is not the best in the industry, offering me a chicken finger for playoff tickets.
Even Drew said, like, coming up for the Sweat Derby in the last block of this show, we win that thing, I may be able to afford joining you at the game.
Wow.
Dog. Yeah. Get excited.
See you there.
Also, baseball fans, get excited. We're bringing Steve back next. We're stepping into the bettor's box. What tickles his fancy as the Dodgers and Braves collide in Cali. It is time now, everybody, back here on The Sweat, to step inside the bettor's box. Steve Buchanan, thanks for coming back.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You doing better than the Marlins right now?
Everybody's doing better than the Marlins right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? Life without Arias is expected to become permanent. This afternoon, my friend, for Miami, visiting Marlins, getting a rematch here with the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
So where does this game currently fall on your betting card, my dude?
I mean, again, I feel like I'm really growing as a person, as a bettor. Last week I gave
that
out
right?
a Patrick Corbin bet.
Yeah, you apologizing just for apologizing
Right.
means that you are growing. So, like, you know, you love to go around this office, you love to bully people and say, oh, you've changed, man, you've changed. No, it's called growth.
Yep.
That's what it's called.
So we gave out a Patrick Corbin bet last week. We're going to give out an Oakland Athletics bet this week.
Big dog.
Taking them on the money line today, going up against the Miami Marlins. This is the fourth time, surprisingly, that the Athletics have been favored this season. They are a perfect 3-0 as favorites so far this year. And you may not even realize it. They have won 5 games in a row.
No, they have not.
They have. They're third in the AL West in early May.
No, that's not true.
I know it's not true, but it's crazy to think that they really are. They're 7-3 over their last 10 games. They've won 5 games in a row. They're going to make it 6 here today against the Marlins. They're starting Paul Blackburn today, who has been one of their better starters, 3.34 ERA, expected ERA of 4.21. But, you know, talking about that Marlins lineup, like, even though, you know, I just basically said he's not a power hitter, this lineup looks progressively worse without him in that lineup there. They're going up against Blackburn, who primarily throws a fastball, and that is not a pitch that the Marlins have been able to handle, which is kind of odd since you're Major League Baseball players. Nonetheless, they're slashing just .223 against that pitch, .290 on base percentage, .358 slugging. They got Trevor Rogers taking them out for them today. He's really been struggling through the first 6 starts that he's made on the year. 4.31 ERA for him. Oakland's rolling right now, man. I'm gonna keep riding them. I'm gonna put them on the money line today.
So, like, they're saying there in Oakland, like, we're not getting wrapped up in the overall record here. Like, do you think ownership actually likes them winning right now?
I mean, if they win today, they're a 500 ball club.
Yeah,
They're
that's
16 and 17 right now. They would be 500 if they win today.
Yeah, they're within one
They're
game.
only 1.5 games back from first place, which is insane to think about.
Again,
but that's just how bad the AL West has been, like, as a whole. Like, that division has just been abysmal, and the Astros are a big part of that.
I need this team, the A's, to be good. Like, I need air in my lungs, especially when they go to that 10,000 person ballpark, like in, where's that, Sacramento, like the next couple
I don't
years.
think they're going to leave that park.
What do you mean?
I don't think they're going to end up in Vegas.
Why? Why do you think that?
There's too much.
Is there a lot going on behind the scenes?
Yes.
You got sources, huh?
I mean, I don't have sources that nobody else can get from Twitter.
Oh, yeah,
I don't have,
so
like,
Twitter's your source.
hidden sources, but there is a lot of, like, pushback on them going to Vegas. And
By who? No, it's okay. We got time.
But so Bally's owns the Tropicana.
Yes.
Which is where the
That's
ballpark's supposed to go. They have already come out and said they're okay with just leaving that land as a lot if it need be, because that land is going to be extremely sought after on the Strip. It ends up being extremely valuable, and Bally's is losing a ton of money.
Oh,
of money.
damn.
Yeah.
I love this.
So just, you know, if you want to go down a little rabbit hole. you
So
can
they'll
take a
just
look
be
at that.
stuck in Sacramento then? The A's will have to figure out somewhere else?
With that ownership, they would love that.
Yeah.
They would love that.
I need them to make it to the World Series and host a World Series game in that minor league ballpark.
that would be
That'd be
asinine.
incredible,
But,
dude.
yeah, just something to want to go down a little rabbit hole. Take
Okay.
a look.
Toronto, a little more stable than the
Ah,
A's right now.
ah.
Again, maybe a little
Oakland
more.
has a better record than Toronto right now.
Holy hell, it's 2024, people. I see you like a bet with the Blue Jays today.
I do like the Blue Jays on the run line through the first 5 innings. So we're really just banking on the starting matchup that we have here. So we have Kevin Gausman going for the Blue Jays, Jake Irvin going for the Washington Nationals. Gausman has really turned things around after a really rough start to the year. He's now allowed just 2 earned runs over his last 3 starts, which spans 18 2/3 innings. And it's against some really good competition as well. Over that 18 2/3 innings, he faced the Dodgers, the Royals, and the Yankees. So like 3 teams that, with the way he was pitching, should have been able to handle him, but Gausman has really turned things around here. He's been fantastic. So then you got Jake Irvin on the other side for the Nationals, has an 8.44 ERA at home. home in Washington. That's where this game's going to be here today. 10 runs allowed through 10 2/3 innings here for Irvin. The Toronto offense has been really hit or miss this season all throughout the year, but I think pitching matchup-wise, this is really lopsided between Goswin and Irvin, so I like the Blue Jays on the run line through the first 5 innings. You're getting that at -110.
Where does Toronto sit on your list of most disappointing teams there through a month?
If it wasn't for Houston, I would say the number 1 team.
Yeah.
But I think because of how bad Houston has been, because Houston is 12-20.
And then like Houston goes on and will like win some kind of crazy walk-off or something,
Yeah.
extra innings, you think, oh man, this is when they're going to put it together, and they just haven't been able to do it.
They haven't, but the only benefit to them is that whole division has really been a disappointment so far. So despite them being 12-20, they're still only 5 games out of first place, which is they have no business of being that close with how poorly they've played.
What's next on your card here?
So we're going to go with a White Sox bet. Like, we're going all over the spectrums here, but this is just a player prop. This isn't necessarily
The White Sox, who are in the conversation for being the worst team in baseball.
Oh yeah, I mean 6-26 will certainly put you in that conversation. But the guy who's going today, Eric Fedde, has been by far their best pitcher, and it hasn't even been close. But taking him to go under 2.5 earned runs allowed here today against the St. Louis Cardinals, you're getting that at +105. He's gone under this number in 5 of the 6 starts that he's made already this season. He went to the KBO last year, which is obviously overseas, and it was big for us during COVID.
Yeah.
We were, I was waking up at 3 a.m. to put in my lineups for KBO baseball because that's all that was going on.
I remember that, man. Those were the glory days.
I would like to forget that. I would like to forget those
I miss calling Madden
glory
games
days
with you.
I don't miss that at all.
Julian did one game.
He did do one game and then absolutely bailed. But Fedde went over to the KBO, has come back, and he's been a completely different pitcher. Like, this was somebody that on the Nationals, this was somebody you'd want to frequently target against. Now you're frequently targeting against him because of how good that he's been. 2.60 ERA, an expected ERA of 3.20. The biggest thing for him, the biggest change that he's made, his strikeout numbers have jumped so much significantly in Major League Baseball. Before he left, he had a 6.6 K9 for the entire year. Already in this season, his K9 through 34 2/3 innings is at 10.1. So this is somebody who wasn't even averaging close to a strikeout per inning. He's exceeding that in the starts that he's made, 6 starts there for the White Sox. You got the Cardinals offense, which has really been struggling over the last 5 games, averaging just 2.8 runs per game. That was against the Pirates and this White Sox team. So against 2 pitching staffs that have not pitched well at all. But I like this one here for Fedde. I think he can keep this Cardinals team to under 2.5 earned runs, getting that at +105.
Okay, a little Jared Jones action as well.
Dude, have you watched this guy? Have you seen?
No. I only watch the Red Sox since we do a Red Sox podcast.
This guy is since 1901. This guy is phenomenal. Jared Jones over with the Pirates here. I don't usually like taking strikeout props that are like 7.5, 8.5.
Man, I saw Arias had not Arias, who was the exit velocity king there for the Pirates.
Oh, O'Neal Cruz.
Oh my God, he had a monster mash last
Over everything last night.
Incredible.
But Jared Jones going against the Rockies at 7.5. I like the over on this one. I will say, before you place this bet, just keep an eye on the weather for this game because there could be some rain, which obviously, if they go 5 innings, that's a full game. And if he's under this, you end up losing this bet.
Okay, that's good advice.
If the weather does look good, though, I like Jones to go over this number of 7.5. The Rockies have one of the highest K rates in the league against righties at 27.8%. They're hitting just 238 against righties with a 78 WRC plus, facing Jones, who has an 11.1 K9 on the year through 34 innings. He throws a lot of fastballs here. The Rockies have a 30% K rate against that. He throws a lot of sliders, 33% K rate against that pitch here. So these are just the 2 main pitches for Jones, are 2 pitches that the Rockies are striking out a ton against here. So again, don't like going over this type of number because it is a high number, but Jones has just been so unbelievably good with the swing and miss stuff on the mound for the Pirates here. If they do look like they're going to play a full game, to give me that over 7.5 for Jones.
All right, and bring us home here with a little Jose Ramirez action. I know it's a guy who's, even when his back goes quiet, there's rarely any major concern because we saw it like a week ago. 10th pitch of an at-bat, dude mashes a grand slam out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the more consistent hitters in Major League Baseball. He's a switch hitter. He can hit both sides, which is great for him today. So they're playing the Angels today, going up against Reed Detmers, who has been really good. This is nothing to take away from Reed Detmers, but Jose Ramirez has been so good against lefties all throughout this career here. So I like him to go over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And there's a multitude of ways that you can cash this bet here. If he hits a home run, you obviously clear that in one shot here. But if he has any combination of 3 hits, runs, or RBIs, you are cashing this bet here. And I've actually come to like this bet more than taking the total bases, because total bases, you have to have, a double or 2 singles or whatnot. This, you can cash those bets here no matter what the outcome ends up being. But like I mentioned, Detmers has been great, has an expected ERA of 2.95, but he throws a fastball almost 50% of the time. That is by far the main pitch he has. That is a pitch that this season, Jose Ramirez is hitting 400 against with a 600 WOBA, giving him to go over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at plus 110.
Hey, you swing good wood there, Steve.
Sure.
All right, people around Boston, you probably noticed as you were coming to the office, everyone's walking on eggshells. People are nervous. They have lost faith ahead of Game 7 against Toronto. History is on your side, Bruins fans. But while Anna Dua says that doesn't matter. Hockey lovers, rejoice. We have our first Game 7 in just over 11 hours from now. First Game 7 of this postseason. So let's get after it. And other NHL storylines with the dynamic NHL.com duo of Anna Dua and Pete Jensen here for another friendly edition of NHL Opening Face-Off. All right, Dua, you tweeted, there's our fancy graphic, teeing up the segment. You tweeted on Thursday, the city of Toronto deserves a home playoff win, and hockey fans deserve a Leafs-Bruins Game 7. Congrats on getting your wish. What makes you believe this could be the start of a cup run for your hometown Canadian team, huh?
Thank you so much, Emerson. First of all, I've known you for 3 years, so we got to drop the hard T in Toronto. There's just one T. Then there's no second T. Like, that is the one thing.
Toronto.
There we go, Toronto. But
Toronto.
honestly, I have been the biggest Leafs doubter over the past couple of years just because their goaltending situation did not look good to me. And heading into this season, I had a feeling that we would end up in the situation we're in right now where Joe Wall is the guy in Toronto, and he has been lights out these past 2 games. He's been the biggest X factor in my eyes. Austin Matthews hasn't even been playing, but Joseph Wall is holding down the fort. And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, I really like the way the Leafs are looking. They have all the momentum in the world going into Game 7. It's usually the other way around. Usually the Leafs are up 3-1 in the series, then the other team come back, pushes it to Game 7, the Leafs lose. This is like opposite day right now. The Leafs are the team that has the momentum. We saw what happened to Boston last year with Florida. I'm feeling good about Toronto. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm feeling good.
Wow. Okay, Pete, so who do you like tonight? We're talking Game 7 here. And keep in mind, Boston's defeated Toronto in 3 straight winner-go-home scenarios.
I'm still staying patient with the Bruins. My original series pick was Bruins in 7. I think that they will eventually end this hex of losing these potential series clinching games. Also, low key, like, they've lost some crazy big games at TD Garden in recent years. I think back to Game 7 against the Blues, 2019, Cup final Game 7, and then also last year Game 7 when they were leading with about a minute left against the Panthers, but then went ahead to blow that 3-1 series lead and lose in overtime to Florida. I think the Bruins bounce back, especially if Austin Matthews does not play for the 3rd straight game.
Yeah, which is crazy. I think he missed only 1 game in the regular season. And yeah, The Athletic yesterday reported that Matthews unlikely to play tonight, but it's got to give them some confidence that they've won 2 without him in elimination game situations here, Pete. So Panthers are going to get the winner in the series that starts Monday. How big of an advantage will Florida have here, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, they beat Toronto in the playoffs last year. I think they'll beat Boston if they play them. Florida and Colorado, to me, I didn't mean to doubt those 2 teams, I promise. But they've really reaffirmed in my mind after the first round in many different ways that they're probably going to advance to the following round. I've been extremely impressed by both of those teams, even in the West, right? Like Vegas and Dallas beating up on each other. The winner's going to play Colorado. So, yeah, that's like what I've learned. The 2 biggest things I've learned is, like, don't doubt McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen, and don't doubt what Florida has going on, because they've been some of the best puck possession players in the league all season long.
All right, so Anna, we're talking Panthers, whether they're going to be facing your Maple Leafs on Monday or if it's going to be the Bruins. It's the rust versus rest debate, right? You think like the time off could hurt them? You think the time off is better for Florida?
I think it depends on who they're playing, right? I like Florida either way. I had Florida in my Eastern Conference final in my bracket, but I feel like if the Toronto Maple Leafs win this Game 7, which I think is going to happen, they'll have all the momentum in the world going into the series against Florida, and obviously they want to reverse what happened last year. So I think in that case, maybe the Panthers are caught off a little bit at the beginning of that series. With Boston, I think that it makes no difference, but Florida, you just can't discount them. And I know we mentioned all the great players that Pete said on Colorado, but someone who stood out to me is Carter Verhaeghe. He's a consistently dominant playoff performer, and he's been absolutely lighting it up for Florida. And this team is just so, like, young, strong, fast. There's really nothing wrong with the Florida Panthers, and Sergei Bobrovsky also playing out of his mind right now. They look pretty dangerous. Maybe they make it all the way. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Bruins would love some revenge after losing that 3-1 lead to the Panthers in last year's postseason. Let's go across Alligator Alley here, across the state, Tampa Bay. How much longer is the Lightning's championship window open right now with this group, Anna?
You never know what moves are being made, so we don't even know how long this group is going to stay together. But for Tampa Bay, you got to give them some credit. Like, they've had some really bad luck. I thought this was going to be like the next step year for a guy like Sergachev, and he had some of the worst injury luck I've seen this regular season, and he did his very best, like all power to him, to come back in the postseason. But that was a tremendous feat. It wasn't expected to happen, and you wonder if he was healthy the whole year round, whether they would have had a little bit better luck on their blue line. But they have great players like Victor Hedman's still great. Braden Point, Kucherov had a phenomenal season. There's no words for the numbers he put up. Steven Stamkos was phenomenal in the postseason as well. I got to give him a shout out, but they're getting older. There's other teams that are younger and faster, and you're kind of seeing it catch up to them. And with that injury luck, it was like the universe saying that maybe it's time for a changing of the guard there.
Yeah, Pete, what is next here for Stamkos and the Lightning?
I mean, I think they're going to try to keep Stamkos. They'll exhaust all the possibilities, but the reality is that they have so much tied up to so many different players, not just that big five, right, that we always talk about with Vasilevsky, Hedman, Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point. They've also given big long-term extensions in recent years to Sergachev and to Brandon Hagel. So, and both of those guys are like worth every penny. Like, Hagel had one of the best even strength seasons in the league this season, and Sergachev is really good when he's healthy. So I think Stamkos will probably not be with the Lightning, honestly. And to answer your previous question, unfortunately, like what we've seen with the Penguins and the Kings and the Blackhawks, like I think the window might be closed here on Tampa.
All right, let's go out west here, guys, because, Pete, I know you've already touched on Colorado, but how impressive have the Oilers looked here? They also won their series 4-1. They appear to be a wagon, especially when they get some strong play there in the crease.
Yeah, they did a great job in making quick work of LA, despite the 5-on-5 battle in that series being tied 12-12. So that was a bit alarming to me. They had the league's best special teams, both the power play and the penalty kill, which was 100% in the series against LA, which ended in 5. The past 2 times they played LA, it was 7 and then 6. So I think, especially with the path coming up and playing the winner guaranteed, either Vancouver or Nashville, that's a big win for them when the other side of the bracket's going to be, beating the heck out of each other, whether it's Colorado playing Dallas or Vegas.
Anna, do you agree with Pete with how dangerous Colorado looks? They looked in their first series and how dangerous they look moving forward?
Yeah, honestly, I had the Winnipeg Jets winning that series. And if anyone knows what happened to the Winnipeg Jets, please call me up and let me know, because I have no words for what I just saw happen. So Colorado looked great. I'm going to give them all the credit in the world. They came out super dominant. They were scoring pretty much 5 goals at least in every single game of that series. So you saw how great their offense was. And it goes beyond just the big guys. Like Arturi Lehkonen is a consistently good playoff performer. He showed up again for Colorado in this series. But I wonder when they have a little bit more tough competition, how they're going to fare, because Winnipeg they did not look like themselves. They had a dominant performance against Colorado at the end of the regular season, and I just woke up in the postseason and was watching a completely different Jets team. So I wonder how Colorado fares against a little bit more of a challenge.
I was going to ask you how you feel about there being, better hockey teams in Florida than there is in the entire country of Canada, but I have one more question talking. I know. So the Hurricanes were your cup pick, Anna, and the Rangers and Hurricanes will clash starting tomorrow. I've seen some who cover the team here say that, really, we have yet to see the best out of these two, especially considering neither of their first-round opponents were a match for these Metro rivals here. Which side, well, I know which side you are taking. How confident, though? How long do you think this series could go?
I have the Carolina Hurricanes winning in 6. I think the New York Rangers looked really good, but they were playing against a Washington Capitals team that really left Charlie Lindgren out to dry. I wonder if that goes against the Rangers in this series, because they're going to have an extreme wake-up call playing against the Carolina Hurricanes, where the New York Islanders, they gave the Hurricanes a run for their money, at least some parts of certain games. In that double overtime game, you saw them give them a little bit of competition, but the Hurricanes just look so strong. They're so deep. Freddie Anderson has shown up. All of their forward lines have shown up. Their defensemen have shown up. There's no deeper team, in my opinion, left. They can roll out great players every single shift. And I don't know if the New York Rangers are going to be able to take that, because there's still something missing in New York. Like, I'm excited about the future of the Rangers. I definitely feel the passion that the city has right now, but there's just a little bit missing. So I think Carolina edges them out.
Pete, I'll give you 20 seconds right now to convince me why the Rangers will win.
I mean, that's going to be tough to do at 5-on-5. So the power play is going to have to be through the roof when they get those opportunities. And Shesterkin's going to have to outplay Freddie Anderson, which I think is very possible.
All right, you two. Tremendous work as always. Enjoy Game 7 tonight and the rest of the weekend. An hour before Game 7 this evening in Boston, all eyes are going to be on the Kentucky Derby. We got a special guest joining us next to help you navigate the odds and how DraftKings is your one-stop shop for picking ponies. Ladies and gentlemen, Churchill Downs is ready to rock ahead of the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. It's now just hours away, and betting on horse racing, believe it or not, has never been easier than with DK Horse. Add to the excitement of watching a race by placing a wager on your pony. Cheer him on to victory. Download the DK Horse app right now on Apple or Google. But wait, there's more. I have questions, and DK Director of Race and Sportsbook Ops, Johnny Avello, is here to provide answers. Johnny, big event here for DK Horse, my friend. Take us through your Derby prep and how you go about positioning favorites.
Well, hi, Emerson. Good to see you. Well, first, Emerson, we're so thankful to the many employees of DraftKings who already have roles to fulfill and have jumped on board to help us with DK Horse in so many ways. We wanted to give customer deals for the Derby. So here's how we've kind of fulfilled that is new customers get a deposit bonus and a match and get deposit $250, get $250 back, and just play through it twice. For existing customers, if a horse finishes second or third on Oaks or Derby Day, receive $10 back. And if you bet $100 on the Derby, receive $20 in cash bonuses. As far as positioning for the favorites, remember, this is a pari-mutuel pool where all the money goes into one pool at the track, and we participate in that. So your one question about positioning is that might refer to fixed odds. And when I tell you about fixed odds, check back with me down the road on that one, and I'll have some answers for you because that is certainly a part of the game we want to be into.
Right. So tons of offerings, it sounds like, available on DK Horse. Historically, though, what is the most popular betting style?
The most popular betting style is, well, first of all, we have every bet imaginable. Win, play, show. Exact is where you got to pick the top two finishers. Trifecta is where you got to pick the top three finishers in order. And superfectas pick the top four finishers in order. And then there's these pick threes and pick fours and pick fives where you have to select the winner of the Derby, but you also have to have the previous races leading up to the Derby, the winners of those. So I think the most popular for the Derby, in my experience, is the win, place, and show, because that's easy to understand. And then the trifectas and superfectas because of the potential lucrative payoff. Some of those things pay in the tens and hundreds of thousands.
So how has DK Horse performed so far in terms of receiving action here, Johnny?
Well, so far, a reasonable amount of the money's being wagered, but it's the signups to wager. That's what's been outstanding so far. People signing up, waiting to wager. When we first opened the DK Horse app a year ago, you had to fund it, which you still have to fund it, of course. But then you have to go. You had to go through a relatively easy sign-up process. But if you already have a DraftKings account now, you can use those credentials to sign up on DK Horse, just by using the same credentials as you do in your normal DraftKings app. Now, hopefully, in the very near future, we'll have what they call a shared wallet. That's where everything resides in the DraftKings app, and we're looking to do that pretty soon. Hopefully sooner than later, and that's a game changer.
So are you saying a lot of bets come in on the day of the Derby too? Like, what do you guys expect like throughout the day today?
Yeah, the most of the bets are going to come in on the day of the Derby. That's usually typical, probably 85, 90%. But there are people betting it now to get an early jump on it.
All right, so Steve's going to love this question. Here's a big weather guy. There is a good chance of rain today at Churchill Downs. So how does the weather impact pricing and a horse's performance here, Johnny?
Well, think about this. You're driving your car on a rainy day with your wipers on, and the tires from the car in front of you keep casting this water and dirt from the ground on your windshield, but you don't actually have a windshield.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So some horses
get a new car.
That's what the horses feel when it's a rainy, sloppy track. But also, some of the horses they can't get secure footing, and other horses just flat out don't like it. It's just not a good feeling. So But there are horses out there who seem to adhere to it. Sierra Leone, Catching Freedom, Dornock, Just a Touch, Track Phantom, and Mystic Dam, especially Mystic Dam. They've all won on a sloppy or muddy track. So that may be an angle for wagering, is to, if you don't like the weather and you think your horse may not like it, then maybe that's a route to go.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Sierra Leone, because Sierra Leone and then Fierceness, I mean, these two horses appear to be at the top of the board. I mean, how much movement here, Johnny, do you anticipate between these two leading up to the start of the race?
Well, Fierceness has already taken a bunch in the early wagering. His morning line opened at 5-2 or plus 250 in sports terms. And it got as low as 3-2 or plus 150. Now, it's going to fluctuate, and I don't think he's going off that low. I think he's going to go up somewhere in the 2-1 to 5-2 range, back up there. Sierra Leone opened up at 3-1, and he's been as high as 6-1, plus 600. So there's going to be a lot of movement still. So I can tell you that Sierra Leone is not going off 6-1, but lower than that. And Fierce is not going off 3-2, but higher than that.
All right, well, how often do we see longer shots win this thing and come out on top? Because I'm looking at the last 2 years, kind of wild. Mage was 15-1, right? And then Rich Strike, 80-1, taking home the roses and providing some massive payouts there for those who took the ride.
Well, Emerson, I'll give you the winning horses payout for a $2 wager over the last 5 years. You mentioned Mage, 32.40. In 22, it was Rich Strike, 163.60. In 21, it was Mandaloon, 26.20. In 2020, it was Authentic, 18.80. And in 2019, it was Country House, 132.40. So prior to that, the favorites, I believe, may have won 4 of that, 4 or 5. But then there were 5 long shots that won in a row previous to those 5 years. So to answer your question, I'm not really sure. But in general, horse racing favorites win at about a 30% clip.
Okay.
And that's about what the Derby percentage has been over the 21st century so far.
So you're telling me there's a chance. Johnny, you've got a busy day ahead, my friend. Thank you for making some time for us here on The Sweat. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, if you're looking for more help with picking your horses, ooh, baby, we got something for you. Head on over to vsin.com for your free betting primer for the Kentucky Derby. Everything you need to know before you place your bets on DK Horse. Now for another expert's opinion, Eddie Olczyk joining Gojo and Golic earlier this week on Thursday. Check this out.
Loved having you on when doing the show at ESPN, and I certainly went with your picks, and it worked out well for me. So who should we be looking for in this race?
Yeah, Mike, it looks a little, the term in horse racing is chalky, meaning it looks a little favorite-y, so to speak. I think there is a lot of pace in the race, a lot of speed in the race. So when you have a race that has some horses that are going to go out there and, put on a clinic, so to speak, on getting out there and trying to get to the lead and go a wire and a wire. Look, this race is 1.25 miles. It's in front of 175 or 180,000 people, and this will never happen again for the majority of these horses running the distance and being in a venue like Churchill Downs, which has just done an amazing job here. So, the favorite is number 17, Fierceness, trained by Todd Pletcher, who's won this race a couple of times. No trainer in the history of the Kentucky Derby's had more starters than Todd Pletcher. Fierceness looks like the real deal. He's a horse that's going to be out there very quickly, but I think there's going to be some other horses that are going to be, running with him. The one thing I will say is that not only you got to worry about the horses and, figuring out this puzzle, but trying to play meteorologist as well. And we're supposed to maybe get some rain here tomorrow, which is Friday for Oaks Day, which kind of puts a damper on everything. So that will have an effect on maybe how the track is playing. And those are things that you have to kind of figure into. And it's supposed to be like a 40% chance of rain on Saturday. So just giving people a little bit of a heads up. But when you have a race that I think has a lot of speed in it, I'm not much of a favorite player, but sometimes you got to take what the track is giving you. The majority of my wagers are going to be around the number 4 horse, Catching Freedom, trained by Brad Cox, who is a Louisville native. This horse is probably going to be sitting somewhere in that 10 to 12 numbers, maybe around the first turn. And Catching Freedom is going to be a horse that I think is going to be able to make one of those big runs. Hopefully, like Rich Strike did. I don't think we're going to get 80 to 1 on that horse, but we're probably going to get anywhere between 8 and 12 to 1 on Catching Freedom. So the faster they go early, and I'll go inside horse if I can. If you hear Larry Comas, the voice of the Triple Crown on NBC, if you hear him say, because he will start saying all the horses' names, and then he will give out a time. He will say 3/4 of a mile, right? So 6 furlongs, there's 8 furlongs in a mile. They're going a mile and a quarter. He will say 6 furlongs in. If he says 6 furlongs in and he gives a time of 1 minute and 10 and 2/5 or faster, that's much better for our pick. I'll say our pick because I'm a part of your team this morning. I'm going to say Catching Freedom is going to come down the lane and mow him down, the number 4 horse, Catching Freedom, and hopefully pay anywhere in that 10 to 1 range. Would be awfully happy. And I will say this, I don't know if you can wear out an app on your phone, but I'm certainly going to wear out my app because I'm going to be sending some cash in on Saturday afternoon.
So Eddie likes Catching Freedom. Make sure you hit up DK Horse for all the goods. Place those bets ahead of this evening's race. Now, after the break, we're going to see who Jeff likes on the links, including some early bets ahead of this year's next major in 2 weeks. All right, 2 rounds here, people. 2 rounds of the CJ Cup Byron Nelson are complete. Listen, it hasn't been the most exciting tournament in the world, but we are looking at a bunched up leaderboard, and there is money to be won. But don't take my word for it. Take Jeff Ulrich's word for it. DK Network, gorgeous golf guru. Hey, big dog, Jake Knapp in position for win number 2, okay? And then there's also Jordan Spieth, another missed cut. This guy has forgotten how to play golf. I know he's dealing with the wrist injury or whatever right now. And then just looking at Knapp here, dude, like a rookie by name, Jeff. And we were just texting about this kid. A rookie by name, but he should be comfortable in the spotlight here over the next couple of days after he got that first win when the pressure was on, was at the Mexico Open, like I think back in February. You think this guy can close it out?
I mean, look, Jake Knapp is potentially in position to become the Scotty Scheffler of these weaker field events. I mean, he's already closed one out, and he closed it out in style. I mean, it's not like this guy like won like some crazy comeback and like, you know, he needed a bunch of luck on Sunday. This guy absolutely dominated in Mexico, and he's dominated through 2 rounds. He's a pure ball striker who knows how to putt. Like it's conceivable this guy gets to 25 and just takes home his second trophy of the season, of the last 4 months. Certainly could happen. That's the biggest storyline right now, though, because you look at this leaderboard. I mean, sure, like there's some crazy names up there who, if they won, it would be at huge odds. But like Kelly Craft, Troy Merritt, even Matt Wallace, like I'm not sure if we can necessarily count on any of these guys being there on Sunday. So going to be a lot of volatility. I think that if you're not looking at Knapp, you're going to be looking at players even further down the leaderboard than those names I just mentioned. Jason Day did come from 5 back after 2 rounds last year. KH Lee came from 4 back, I believe, in his first or second win. But there's been some comebacks after 2 rounds. So I wouldn't exactly give this to Knapp right away, but certainly he's in the driver's seat. He's proven he can close out an event in this position already.
Yeah, Knapp trying to become the first rookie since Xander Schauffele, that was back in 2017 here, Jeff, to win multiple times on the PGA Tour. Why does Kelly Craft and Troy Merritt have you fired up?
I mean, they don't actually have me fired up. That's the joke, Emerson, that it's hard to get fired up about this leaderboard. Unless you're really into hearing about Jake Knapp being a bouncer, a year ago, which is a cool story. But we've already had that story, so it's like a rerun. We're watching a rerun this week, which isn't as exciting. So.
All right, so then are you looking at any of these guys on the leaderboard right now on the DK Sportsbook for top 5, top 10, like any props here? Like, how do you navigate this thing with so many names that may not necessarily be known around the household?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, again, I think that we go pretty far back here when we look for names and for guys to potentially target. I mean, Taylor Pendrith is a name that's pretty interesting to me. I think if you're looking for a top 10 bet, plus 125 is pretty fair. This is a player who we've seen show up in a lot of these weaker field events. He took Tony Finau to the limit in Detroit a couple years ago. He's had numerous career top 10s in events like this. He's in a pretty good spot. He's struck the ball okay. He's a decent putter. I think plus 125 is actually pretty fair for where he's at. But we can go further back. One of my favorite names to target at -9. Adam Schenk hit the ball really well over the last couple days. This dude, don't forget what Adam Schenk did at the Masters. He was T12 at the Masters, got himself an invite for next year. That builds a lot of confidence. And I think that plus 210 for him at being at -9, I would definitely sprinkle him in the outright if you're going to bet to Adam Schenk. But I think plus 210 for a top 10, extremely nice number there. I mean, again, we're going through these names that he's got to go through. And like, again, like we're kind of making jokes because these guys never show up. Like when's the last time Kelly Craft was, T3 after 2 rounds? So, it's conceivable that Schenk really grinds his way through this field. I think that's a good number for Schenk for a top 10 as well.
I see your boy Jaeger back there, Jägermeister plus 4,000. Adam Scott there plus 3,500. That's my wife's golf crush. But last 8 starts.
My golf crush.
Yeah, me too, dude. That makes 3 of us. All right, so in his last 8 starts, just very quickly about Jordan Spieth. It is clear here, Jeff, there's a lack of quality in his game at the moment. Listen to these last 8 starts. Miscut, T39, miscut, T10, miscut, T30, and then a DQ. This has to be a guy that you just completely stay away from as we're looking ahead to the Wells Fargo next week and then the PGA Championship after that.
I mean, even if Spieth was playing well, like the PGA Championship is just not set up for Jordan Spieth for long-term success unless you get to a specific kind of venue.
Okay.
I mean, it's turned into a really long, they grow the rough out now. They're kind of going the U.S. Open route. The PGA Championship last year was probably tougher conditions than the U.S. Open. So right off the bat, it's not kind of probably going to be the greatest setup. And then, just, again, the wrist injury, playing terribly. The short game still seems to be there with Spieth, but man, like the tee to green stuff is just so inconsistent. Even in the start of the year when he was playing, looked sharper and had a couple top tens. It was inconsistent at best, and now you're seeing it really flare up. So no, absolutely straight fade until this guy maybe takes a little break, comes out and says he's 100% healthy.
Yep.
I don't feel the need to necessarily burn any money with Jordan Spieth.
Scotty Scheffler's taking a break next week, so the only eligible player that did not commit to the Wells Fargo Championship, believe it, Quail Hollow next week here, Jeff, which is an elevated event, signature event. There's going to be no cut here. These kind of events we've seen a lot following the weeks following a major, but this week, it is the week before a major, and it's only 2 hours away from where the PGA Championship is going to be held the following week. But how nice is it to see like an elevated event here leading into a major? So maybe people are a little more dialed in, and that interest carries over to the second major of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the goal with the PGA with this schedule. They want the players showing up the week before. They want to build some anticipation. Unfortunately, we're not going to get Scheffler this week, it looks like. But I mean,
his wife's still pregnant.
Good. Everyone knows.
She's still pregnant, Jeff. So I'm assuming he's not doing it because maybe she has the child and then he's there at the PGA Championship.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't want to be going back and forth. I mean, it's probably easier for Scheffler, who's just playing out of his mind at this point, to just skip this event. So we'll see what happens. But, I think they want to build some anticipation with the top players, getting to see them twice in a row. See who's playing well, see if they can go and do it again. So, looking at this event right now, let's assume Scheffler's not going to go in it. I mean, I think this makes it a lot more wide open. Potentially a guy like Cameron Young, who almost won at Valspar at Copperhead course down in Florida. Actually, I think compares very well in terms of, correlated course with, what we're going to see at Quail Hollow. They're both long par 71s. They're both long, windy courses as well. Cameron Young did finish second at this event in 2022. It was a different course, though, but still good omens for Cameron Young, who is playing good golf. I think Justin Thomas is probably pretty interesting this week. He did play well toward the end at that RBC Heritage. Another player like Spieth, I wouldn't go crazy with, but definitely looks like Justin Thomas could potentially be coming out of this funk eventually. He's been very up and down, but another name to look for. And then for a long shot, I'd keep an eye on Taylor Moore as well. Another winner at the Valspar at Copperhead. He's played well over the last month. He's shown that he can kind of just, keep pace with some of these more elite ball strikers. I think Taylor Moore, potentially a good like top 20, top 10 pick as well. So those are three names to keep an eye on. Definitely looking to see if Cameron Young could break through. But this should be a more wide open event. Potentially some good value on some of the top names if Scheffler doesn't play.
Yeah. And then Rory, I believe, has won the Wells Fargo 3 times. You've got Homa twice. Wyndham Clark is going to be defending his title there. So Quail Hollow will host the PGA Championship next season. This year, though, in 2 weeks. So the PGA Tour will return to Valhalla here, which Rory won the last time the PGA came to Valhalla. That was in 2014. That was his last major victory right now. How creative can you get in terms of PGA Championship bets just a couple weeks out, Jeff?
I mean, you can get creative as you want. I mean, there is a lot of volatility going on here. Maybe like betting early isn't the worst idea because if Scheffler does have to miss, a lot of the odds on the big players are going to go down. So it's something to think about, like getting a couple futures in early is not the worst idea right now. It is, again, you mentioned it's at Valhalla again. Played pretty soft the last time we saw it. Rory got to 15, 16 under, I believe. It was a good setup for Rory back then. He does like the lower scoring events. I'm sure it will play a little bit tougher this year. Again, the PGA Championship has been growing rough out and stuff like that, but we could see a little bit more scoreable conditions for sure. I think when you're looking at the board, one name that does stick out to me, Patrick Cantlay in a major. I know it's tough to bet, but a plus 2,500, I do not hate that number. He's won on Jack Nicklaus courses before. He likes the Memorial, obviously. He's done well there at Muirfield Village. And I think that Cantlay, like if he is going to get in a major It just might be in a bit of a more low pressure situation like the PGA Championship. Maybe where Scotty Scheffler, the favorite, isn't in top form because obviously he's coming in with, obviously focusing more on his personal life. These are a little bit narrative based, but Cantlay did play well at the Heritage. He popped up at the Riviera. I thought he was going to have a big year after that, but potentially we just needed to wait a month here. So I do like Cantlay at plus 2,500, and then I'll throw out Siwoo Kim at 100 to 1 too. Woo. Let's really get into the idea that maybe Scheffler just isn't in top form, or maybe ends up skipping this event. I think Siwoo Kim, with the ball striking he's shown this year, would be live in a field without Scheffler. So, or maybe just like not a top form Scheffler. Either way, I think Siwoo Kim 100 to 1, really interesting long shot.
You would never skip the PGA Championship for the birth of your child. Just your dog's birthday, which happy belated birthday to Pepper.
Yes.
Chow. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely would have to skip it. I'd be forced.
We'll talk to you later. We got a huge fight card in the PBC and UFC this evening. We'll check in with our friends at Morning Combat next. Welcome back, everybody, to this baby that we call the Sweat. As you could probably tell by now, watching this show up to this point, it is a very busy day in sports. This is the first Saturday in May of 2024. You got the ponies running around. Game 7 tonight between the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, but also 2 huge events in the fighting world. UFC 301, sure. Plus a beefy boxing card in the PBC, highlighted by the main event, Canelo Alvarez versus Jamie Munguia in Las Vegas. Yes, a big one for sure. However, it's a solid card throughout. Trust me, listen to my words. You might ask, hey, Emerson, I'm certainly going to watch the Canelo fight, but where, dude, can I watch the prelims? To which I'd say, I'm glad you asked, and that's a damn good question. Because you can watch the prelims right here on the channel you're watching right now, DraftKings Network, starting at 6 o'clock Eastern, live on DKN. Vito Mielnicki Jr., 17-1-0. He has promised a dominant performance versus Ronald Cruz. So he's talking a big game here. By the way, Cruz only has 3 losses on his record, as you can see. And then, don't even get me started with Jesus Ramos versus Johan Gonzalez. We're talking a combined 54 wins and just 3 losses between these 2 dudes. That's damn impressive. And if you're looking for even more deets here about the main bout, so again, we're talking Alvarez and Munguia in Las Vegas. Once again, you have come to the right place. Here are the guys from Morning Combat. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. There is no shortage of big-time combat sports events tonight. We got Canelo versus Munguia in the PBC pay-per-view here in Las Vegas, UFC 301 in Brazil. Well, Luke Thomas, when we're talking about the return of Canelo, it's big business in boxing. But how live of a dog is 43-0 Jaime Munguia?
In the end, it's still hard to pick against Canelo, in part because Canelo is picking his fights. There's been a whole debate about who he should be fighting this weekend. Now, I got to tell you, I'm actually a big believer that this fight will be great, action-oriented, and to answer the question you're putting, I think Munguia can be a real live dog, but there's just a bunch of really unknown questions here, right? Or at least the answers to them are unknown. Here's what I mean, BC. It's like, Canelo's getting older at age 33. What is his counter-punching going to look like? What kind of output is he going to have later against a volume attacker and a guy like Munguia?
Sure.
Also in the last contest, he faced a very decorated champion in Jermell Charlo, but he was undersized and kind of overmatched for the moment. Here, Munguia, 43 wins, no losses, but he is much bigger than Charlo. He's a real 68er. And so when you think about that, can he stand up to the power punching? And if he does, what's going to happen in the later rounds? We know that Canelo's beaten better guys. We know that at his ceiling, Canelo has been much better, but he is also older. And here we have Munguia now with Freddie Roach on the rise, and they're meeting at this interesting time. So, I think the smart money is probably still on Canelo, but I actually do think Munguia, at a bare minimum, can make it very interesting.
At a bare minimum, this is going to be a very physically taxing test for Canelo Alvarez as he defends his 4 super middleweight world titles and the undisputed championship. He's no stranger to the bright lights in Las Vegas. He's been on top for over a decade, dating back to his 2013 pay-per-view debut and the loss to Floyd Mayweather. But it's obviously been the adjustments he's continued to make, his evolution, and the fact that even at 33, boy, is he still rated high among the pound-for-pound pest. Now, Jaime Munguia has never reached that level of pound-for-pound acclaim, but he does fight in that traditional Mexican style, which is what the fans expect in the Cinco de Mayo showdown. You mentioned that this is fight number 2 under Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach. And when we look back in January of this year, it was the breakout moment for Jaime Munguia. He went in there against John Ryder, the same fighter who Canelo, would you say, struggled a year ago in his homecoming in Mexico when he won a decision over Ryder?
Struggled to put away.
He had the lingering hand injury that really didn't allow him to train at full speed. So what does Munguia do? He goes in there against that same John Ryder and absolutely blows him away.
Runs him over.
So we have seen the increased offensive output, which is typically what happens when fighters align themselves with Freddie Roach, who has so much great history with Manny Pacquiao and so many others. But can Munguia take the heat of what Canelo is going to give back to him as a sniper, as a counterpuncher? That's really the story. Munguia always comes forward, he's tough as nails, but Canelo don't miss. And when he lands the big punch, that turns the course of the fight around. Look at Billy Joe Saunders, look at Callum Smith, look at Caleb Plant. They came in there with glossy unbeaten records in 2019. as soon as Canelo landed that definitive blow early on, boy, does he discipline his opponent.
But I'll say this. I think that's correct. But I will say this. If Munguia can take it, if his defense has gotten better, if he gets a little bit lucky, and now we're in round 7, 8, 9, 10, and potentially beyond that, the volume of Munguia could be a huge problem. The work rate. Canelo is older. I have no doubt he's going to shine early. But if Munguia can take it, does he shine, talking about Canelo, later in that contest? That is a very, very big question none of us have the answer to, which is why this main event is so intriguing.
Look, we can talk about the X's and O's like crazy, but there's been a couple weird developments this week from the fight week theatrics. Even though Canelo is certainly preparing and has a lot of respect for what Jaime Munguia, his opponent, brings to the table, this is Canelo's first fight opposite his ex-promoter, Oscar De La Hoya of Golden Boy. And if you watched Wednesday's fight press conference, of course, De La Hoya, the co-promoter of Jaime Munguia, well, when De La Hoya got up to the podium, he really made a beeline in attacking Canelo Alvarez, sharing some of those personal details behind the scenes, bringing up the failed drug test back from 2018. That led to a colorful exchange. And we saw Canelo get up off his chair and had to be separated by security, which is not the typical Canelo Alvarez demeanor. So, is Oscar trying to get under the skin of his ex-fighter, or does that even matter at all when you're talking about a professional like Alvarez?
He definitely got under his skin yesterday, or I should say Thursday. He definitely got under his skin that day. Is he going to get under his skin tonight? I tend to think probably not. And in fact, what you could even argue is, all right, well, maybe Oscar did do a good job of getting under Canelo's skin, but that kind of thing can raise the profile. If we're going to talk about MMA, for example, did Conor McGregor get under the skin of Khabib Nurmagomedov? Yeah, he sure did. But what did he get in response? A beating. So the question is, what does it do? Does it derail or does it motivate him? I tend to think a guy this experienced will probably be able to use it more for the latter than the former.
Yeah, or does it put a target around Jaime Munguia, who, again, like we said, Canelo respects him. Canelo's playing into the tradition of the all-Mexican rivalry here on Cinco de Mayo weekend. But is that going to give him more motivation to try to finish off the younger yet more inexperienced, less technically sound fighter? I think that's something that could be interesting, whether Oscar De La Hoya is poking the wrong bear. Because when was the last time we saw Canelo this upset, this
telling Demetrius
upset?
Andrade to get out of his post-fight press conference?
For sure, but I think you go back to that drug test in which he had to pull out of the scheduled rematch with Gennady Golovkin. They end up doing that fight a few months later, and that's arguably the best performance of Canelo's career from the standpoint that he walked straight ahead against Triple G, the biggest puncher with the biggest chin in the game at that point at middleweight. It actually made him back up, wins a disputed majority decision. I don't think you push Canelo against the wall because you're not going to want what's coming back at you.
Well, they already did. We'll see what happens.
Predictions for this Saturday.
I'm going to stick with Canelo on this one. Is this the fight where he's over the hill? Could be. I'm going to bet probably not. We'll see.
We'll find out what happens tonight. But in Brazil tonight, UFC 301, Alexandre Pantoja, the flyweight champion in his home city of Rio, he's welcoming a newcomer, Steve Erceg from Western Australia. He's only been in the UFC for 11 months, 3-0, including a one-punch knockout of Matt Schnell. Is this the guy that doesn't get a lot of fanfare, let's say, but a guy who could be walking out of there with a championship belt?
I have to tell you, I think this fight is very, very sneaky good, and I think Steve Erceg is a true live dog. Listen, what Pantoja has shown us as a flyweight champion, BC, you know this, not just a very skilled and very dedicated operator on the mat, to the feet to an extent, but just an absolute dog. I mean, if the fight gets tough, he can match it with intensity and will.
His split decision over Brandon Moreno to win the title last year, he walked through hell and back.
And didn't look all the worse for wear when he took on Royval thereafter. So my point being is we know what he's up against, but he's also had a lot of tough fights. He's been around for a long time. There is a question about whether he'll be shop-worn. We don't know. Steve Erceg cannot match the ground skills, no doubt about it, of a guy like Pantoja, but he does have very good defense, and on the feet, mark my words, he is much better than Pantoja. And Pantoja hasn't sort of known, I should say is known, for at times trading with guys for longer than he should, hasn't necessarily paid for it, but Erceg is exactly the kind of guy who's going to make him pay for it. If you're not Brazilian, they literally chant at you in Portuguese, "You're gonna die." The whole crowd in unison, vai morrer. They all say it to you. So he is in hostile territory, but skill for skill, he is a very worthy adversary for the champion.
A main event you can't miss tonight, UFC 301 in Brazil. Also the return of Jose Aldo in the co-main event against Jonathan Martinez. We can't wait to see what happens. You got that going on in Brazil. You got Canelo Munguia in Las Vegas tonight. The fights continue. Back to you guys in the Sweat Studio.
All right, gentlemen, good stuff. Don't forget, watch a special edition of Morning Combat before the PBC prelims, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Luke and Brian will dive deeper into the Canelo Munguia fight and talk UFC 301. They mentioned it there. Luke really liking Urseg as a live dog, plus 154 in the DK Sportsbook. Should be a pretty good matchup for the flyweight title there. Pantoja in his hometown, like the guy said, but Urseg has 3 inches on him. That's pretty big and has only lost once. Urseg, 6 wins by submission. Pantoja, though, also likes to kind of grapple. 10 of his 27 wins by submission, 8 by knockout, and 10 in the first round. Good grief. Jose Aldo in action as well. Slight underdog to Jonathan Martinez. So again, get the action started with the Morning Combat preview episode, then the PBC prelims right here on DraftKings Network. Final break of the show. Final block of the show. Coming up, we're wrapping up the sweat with the fastest 30 seconds in sports. The Sweat Derby is about to go down, and it's about to get real dirty. You want to welcome us back? Go ahead.
Back, everybody.
Steve can host.
Welcome back, everybody. You know what? It is my job. That would be great. Yes, welcome back to the final block of the sweat here on this Saturday morning. May the 4th be with all of you. What have we covered up to this point? I know all of you know this because you've been watching every second of it, but let me just go ahead and go over it for you one more time. So Julian delivering a nice little NBA preview for some of the games ahead, including the first game in the series between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. Derby picks, yep. We dished some of those out as well, and just you buckle up there, guys, because we've got more pony action coming your way. Plus, Game 7 tonight, Boston-Toronto. After you guys listen to...
Under 5.5 goals.
Okay, so you're sticking with that. After you guys listen to Anna and Pete kind of break it down for us, Steve, did your opinion change at all with that one? Are you nervous? I know you're not a huge hockey guy, but what's
Steve's
your heart
really
telling you?
nervous.
Yeah, I'm shaking in my boots about what's going to happen in Game 7.
So nervous
I'll be watching baseball, yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting because, Julian was kind of feeling the Timberwolves a little bit for this game ahead of Denver tonight. But keep in mind how good Nikola Jokic is on Derby Day. So his career numbers on Derby weekend. Look at this, Jules. Almost 29 points per. The guy's averaging a triple-double on Derby weekend throughout his career.
I think he does that
We couldn't
anyways.
just get an actual picture of Jokic with a horse. We had to make
I
that.
think
We had to make that.
There are a lot of pictures of him with horses
All
because
right, I'm
everybody
gonna have
knows
to go
his-
back there and fire somebody.
Everybody knows that he has this passion and love for horses. Hell, he doesn't even really want to be playing basketball. He does
No, he might skip game one. That's part of the reason I like the Wolves. He might skip game one. Do something with some of his Derby
Is it
winnings.
fair to say, though, like these numbers are pretty much on par with what he does off of Derby weekend?
I mean, those
That's
are really
a
high.
lit-
Those
that's
are
a
really
little
high.
high.
Okay.
Well, now they're gone, so I can't see him. That's like a point above his
Okay.
average,
Yeah.
2 rebounds above, 2 assists above.
So basically,
something
what we're
like
saying
that.
is it's a little bit of a stretch.
What
It's
is
also
a-
playoff time, so he plays better now.
But come on, averaging by far into the triple-double category. Those numbers are absolutely insane. You said, okay, yeah, he may not even play game one or something, or maybe whatever.
That was a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why you said maybe that's why you like Minnesota plus 4.5 tonight. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is time now for the Sweat Derby. What we are going to do. So Julian has his bet of Minnesota plus 4.5 tonight.
Producer Drew said he would give me 5 since I put it out at +5 on Twitter.
Interesting. I have not received that information from producer Drew. So
Yeah, well, he's
what we
a
have
great
here,
communicator.
it's a fancy little graphic, fancy little game. It's going to go 30 seconds, and we have 4 Jokic props on these horses. Ready, set, go. And what is going to happen?
They're not listening to you.
They're going at their own pace.
I get it. All right.
Shut up and let them go.
Okay. I don't know when they're going to start. All right, so this is what's going to happen. Whichever one of these props wins, we are going to pit against your Minnesota plus 4.5 bet here. Plus 5, whatever it is. Okay?
Go.
And then Drew, no matter what, is going to buy donuts tomorrow. All right? I'm very, very excited because of Steve's request.
Rebound
It
is not
looks
looking
like
good.
What do we
unlike
have? Oh my God! Yeah!
Wow. He gets the unique prop.
It's a unique
Not much handle on that one tonight, Drew.
I thought Jokic over 27.5 points was definitely going to win that thing, but all right, you feel pretty good about your Minnesota plus 5 to knock that one off?
I'm going to look up what Jokic has done in that department against the Wolves this season.
Okay, well, as he is looking at
in general, I always feel better about my bet versus Drew's bet. So
yeah, win or lose, I win because I get donuts. Okay, so right now, we are going to run it back. That was the fastest 30 seconds in sports, the Sweat Derby, folks. And it was so nice, we're going to do it twice. This time, Steve Buchanan's bet.
Oh, okay.
Jared Jones, over 7.5 strikeouts. So we have 4 other strikeout props here with 4 other pitchers.
Yep.
Right? And whichever one wins, we're going to pit that one against your Jared Jones. So let's go. Crank the horn. Do we get to hear it again?
How come they didn't give you a gun to fire off?
because they don't want me. They don't want me holding a gun at this studio.
I wouldn't mind that actually. If I got shot, I could probably take tomorrow's show off.
Oh, okay. Make that 2 of us. You're solo tomorrow, Bukes. Good stuff. Okay, so we have Logan Gilbert over 5.5 strikeouts.
I like
Suarez.
the Lance Lynn one. That'd be ideal.
Yeah,
You
why
do?
is there one
Lance
under
Lynn
6
under
innings?
5.5. And Kevin Gossman over
If the
4.5.
4-horse wins again, that's pretty fishy.
Okay.
It's looking like that. Oh, no, Suarez.
Oh, Suarez is gonna
One
get
Unrealistic. The 1-horse never does well. We all know that.
over 5.5 strikeouts.
Don't love that. Don't like that at all.
Why is that? So you're nervous that Suarez over 5.5 strikeouts will beat your Jared Jones over 7.5.
No, I don't think Suarez is going to win at all. I think that's going to go under. Because we were just looking it up there that the Giants have one of the lowest sinker ball strikeout percentages in the league. It's at like 13%. That's not good.
Well, good. That means if your bet wins, then
Yeah.
you don't have to bring in donuts. If Jules'
I
bet
wouldn't
wins,
anyway.
he doesn't have to bring in donuts.
I looked at the Jokic numbers.
Let's
I
go.
should have been rooting for assists over for Drew's prop because he's been pretty poor by his standards. 4.3 assists per game in 4 games versus the Wolves this season. That's by far the lowest. Points, very good. 33.3 points per game in those 4 games.
I feel pretty good. I'm looking forward to
You have
hopefully
nothing,
we can
you
get
have nothing
Drew.
but free donuts. In
Drew, listen,
I know,
man.
how did this work
I work hard. I put the show on my back every
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday morning for the most part. And producer Drew, if they both lose, both your bets lose, then I get donuts, and if both your bets
they
win,
will.
yeah. If the horse and their bets lose,
You're trying to follow
I
along
get
as he
donuts.
speaks
Yeah,
in
I'm
your
listening
ear,
to
yeah.
producer Drew in my ear. He has to talk to me like I'm 5 because I act like I'm 5. What did we learn? What else did we learn in today's show, Steve Buchanan?
Athletics are on a hot winning streak.
When you told me they have a better record than the Blue Jays, I'm
Yeah.
like, what planet are we
And
on?
we went down the rabbit hole about how Vegas may never even get the Oakland Athletics. It may just be
Yes.
the Sacramento Athletics moving forward.
That it's just going to be
That's what you want.
plot. That's exactly what I want. Who wouldn't want Sacramento
But I-
hosting a
The
World
Sacramento
Series?
Athletics,
But I
home
will
to 7,000 fans.
I
home
will
game.
say that MLB wants to be in Vegas.
Of course.
So if it's not the Athletics, then what happens after that? That's the big question for me.
That's because in terms of expansion, coupled cities that have been rumored is maybe what?
Is the
bringing it-
NBA expanding into Vegas in the next few years?
It
That's the
will.
Yeah,
Will.
and you know who's rumored to be the ownership group for that is Fenway Sports Group. Which
Is it really?
who's part of that
Sell the
ownership
team.
group is LeBron.
Is it really that Fenway?
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that part. Wow.
Yeah. Why do you think they're not
Las-
spending money anymore with their soccer team or their hockey team or their baseball team?
Well, their
The
baseball
Las
team's
Vegas-
doing well, though.
I
They're not
know,
spending
I
money,
know, but
and
it's
it's
not-
They
doing
got to
well.
sell some pieces off. The
Yeah.
Las Vegas LeBrons. That'd go good. Right?
There is no one on the planet who would love a basketball team. named
Are we
after
bringing
him.
up In and Out again? Why are we doing
Every
this?
show. Is
Why
this
do we
an
keep
old
bringing
tab?
up how many In and
Oh,
Outs
we're
there
going to
are?
look at how many In-N-Outs are in Vegas.
Oh, I know
19
there's
in
a
the
ton of
Vegas
In-N-Outs
area. He
in
knows
there.
that.
Where are they in casinos or are they like standalone locations?
Standalones.
I've only seen them standalone.
They put one in Utah right before Meg and I moved from there, and the line, I swear to you, was 3 miles long every day starting at like 4 a.m.
There
doesn't love them.
is a fairly new one on the strip right by the link, and it is so busy that they have security at the door to let people in. And if it's too busy,
Like a bouncer.
Yes, they literally have a bouncer at the link at In-N-Out Burger. So like if it's too busy, they're like, you have to wait a few minutes. And then when people come out, they
Oh
let
my
more
God,
in.
it's just like going to like a club with Julian Edlow.
But it's
except he
In-N-Out
gets
Burger.
access right away.
I don't go to clubs.
Yeah. Yep. But it's amazing that In-N-Out Burger is basically treated like a club in Las Vegas because it's that popular. And I don't care what anybody says, it's worth it.
It is worth it.
Some people are like, oh, it's so overrated.
It's exceptional.
It's so overrated. It's not.
There's 19 in the Las Vegas area.
Yeah, there should be.
Okay.
I wish
well,
we
maybe
had
they
just
could put
one.
one at the location the stadium was going to be at next. Jules, what'd you learn today? Anything?
I learned some stuff listening to the horse segment, Kentucky Derby segment.
Yeah, Johnny's awesome. Appreciate it.
The one thing, nobody seems to, I don't know anything about horse racing. I listened to a few people, see if there's any consensus and maybe like bet that for fun on Derby Day. I haven't found that this year. Nobody has a consensus. And one of the reasons, the one consensus that I seem to be finding, is that none of these horses line up, everybody giving the same picks, because it's such a big field this year, which means, if anything, bigger payouts. Now, you have to get the horses right in your trifecta box, your superfecta, whatever. Makes it harder to get them right with all the horses, but the payouts this year, when people start tweeting those tickets, big payouts.
What's the one that you like?
I like Forever Young, which would be the
Don't
first.
bet that one.
Which would
That's
be
the one
the
to
first
avoid.
Japanese horse to win.
I like the two
Kentucky
favorites.
Derby.
Not
He's
to win.
undefeated.
Take the no prop on Sierra Leone and Fierceness. Those two not going to win. Give me the field.
All right, that's it. Everybody have a great Saturday. We'll see you back here 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. DraftKings Network and VSiN. Peace.